Hi guys, I'm back. Okay, so today's video is about overcoming a negative public image. Okay, and this is very dear to my heart, this video, and because I went through a slander campaign that resulted in a negative public image of who I am as a person and who I was by people who don't even know me. And after overcoming that and still overcoming it, I decided that this would be a very good topic for a lot of people who have experienced a negative public image, and also for anyone who's experienced trolling online. You know, but I'm not going to talk so much about trolling, but I will talk about key points about overcoming a negative public image and how to overcome it. Okay. So the first thing I had to overcome was when I realized what was going on. And it's funny because when I found out what was going on, it was kind of like literally I found out like, ha ha ha, this is what we did to you. You know, that's literally how I found out. And the people who did it basically said, okay, we did this to you, so what? And laughed. And they were pretty much adamant about what they did. Now I'm not living the past. This is a positive message with positive steps that you could take, as well as steps that you've created for yourself if you have any, and incorporate it into overcoming something just so horrendous. And with everyone with cameras in their phones and cameras everywhere, everyone, a lot of people think that they, backseat journalists, and privacy is just a thing that's just out of the door, out of the window, that kind of thing. But this is not a negative video, as I am not focusing on negativity. There's enough negativity out there. This is about something that's constructive to help people who's ever been in this situation overcome something that is very difficult to overcome. And one of the women I greatly admire Monica Lewinsky, because she was the first person that I thought who really, like, she was a young girl, she fell in love with a very powerful man, and she didn't know what she was doing. But anyway, I don't want to go too much into the past, but I do admire Monica Lewinsky because it shows that, people make mistakes, and people should be allowed to A, make mistakes, and B, overcome their mistakes. And this is one young woman who literally experienced something similar to what I experienced. And she overcame it slowly but surely. She overcame it, right? So anyway, so the first point I would like to emphasize is do not hide, because the first thing you want to do with a negative public image is hide. You just want to literally bury your head in the sand and hide. Okay, and my advice to you is, because people are mean. Okay, my advice to you is don't just use one of these techniques, but try to see if you can incorporate as much of it as possible. Okay, the first thing you want to do with a negative public image is hide. That's the first thing you want to do. You don't want to be seen in public. You want to hide. There's a time in which you should incubate yourself from the public so that you can, reclaim your sanity, reclaim your personal space, reclaim whatever you need to reclaim. But long term, it's not good for you to hide, especially if you didn't do anything wrong. Why are you hiding when the people who orchestrated it are public, enjoying their life, and they could care less that you're suffering? And that's practically what I experienced. The people just basically, looked at me and laughed and said, "This is what we did, so what? Get over it." So I had to make the conscious decision. Why am I hiding? So the first point that you should really focus on is not hiding. Do not hide. And the reason why I say this is because when you hide or you try to run away, I'll tell you something about the public. The watching public automatically thinks, because you want to hide and you want to reclaim your private life, in their minds, they're thinking you're guilty. And that's what I observed when I wanted to reclaim my private life, try to privately figure out what was happening in my life, what mistakes I made, who orchestrated what was orchestrated. I wanted my privacy back. But I realized that me wanting my privacy back, in the public's mind, it was an admission of some sort of guilt. So I said, okay, I'm not a public person. I am not a public person, but I had to change everything that I did in some ways. And I had to open up part of myself, not my entire life. I don't open up all parts of my life to anyone, but I had to allow myself to become public in order to deal with this, So first point, do not hide. The second point, which is very important, is your network. Okay, people who can vouch for you, people who knew you or who have known you for a long period of time can actually vouch for you. So maintain relationships with your network. If you don't have a network, my advice to you is try to reach out with people who endured similar situations, right? So a network of supporters is very important when you're overcoming a negative public image, especially an unjust negative public image, where in the eyes of the public, their minds are already made up as to your guilt, your admission of guilt, whether you admit it or not, and the public becomes an executioner, judge, jury, and executioner. Okay, so having a network is very, very, very crucial to overcoming a negative public image. The third thing that you should consider doing is you have to create a public profile. Okay, it doesn't mean that you allow every and anyone into your life, but this is a tactic that you should do in order to get your side of the story out. Okay, because that's something else I had to learn. Like, you're giving a narrative of me that is not true, and everyone is believing this narrative that is untrue, and I have no means in which to tell my side of the story. Okay, so I came up with creating a public image, making sure that I have a public profile that can tell my side of the story. And I'm going to tell you this. In the eyes of the public, when you endure a slander campaign, when you endure character assassination, when you endure it, in the eyes of the public, their minds are already made up as to your guilt. That is just the way it is. I never knew these things existed. I never experienced it until until a certain part of my life. And when I experienced it, I literally had to figure out how to change the dynamic of this. And what's interesting is that the people who orchestrated it, they're living, I can't even begin to tell you what they're doing at this particular moment. And I'm just so shocked at the public persona that some of these people have, the persona of being this angel, when I know for a fact this is not the case. So creating a public profile, so that way you can get your side of the story out and you maintain your narrative. Okay, you maintain your narrative. Okay, so that's the third step. The fourth step is connecting with like-minded people. It goes back to that networking. And let's say, because sometimes when the public fallout is so devastated, what I've observed is that a lot of people, they just won't trust, especially when it has anything to do with the media. Okay, if the media is involved, a lot of people will not trust the person if the media tells them that this person is blacklisted or an outcast or persona non grata or whatever. Okay, so if the media is involved telling the public this, the public would more likely trust the media than trust you. So what ends up happening is that it's very difficult to maybe maintain your personal network. So this is why you have to reach out to people who have experienced the same exact thing, right? Because I guarantee you what you're going through today, Someone experienced it at some point in history. You're not the first and you will not be the last to experience something like this. Okay. So let's say, because in some situations, when there's character assassination or someone wages a negative public campaign against this person, what usually happens is that they infiltrate the person's existing network and they try to get that existing network to turn against them. Okay, so when that network turns against them, okay, they have no support system, and it makes it easier for them to fulfill what they intended to do, which is to destroy this person for whatever reason. And don't think, and people, we're living in a very hyper competitive environment. Don't think that it can't happen to you. This is something that can happen to anyone, especially let's say, you're doing a good job. You're at work, you're doing a good job, and someone thinks that they can do your job better. It happens all the time. It doesn't discriminate based on your color, it doesn't discriminate based on your income, it doesn't discriminate based upon your sex. All it takes is just one person, orchestrating some sort of scheme to get you out of the way to get what you have, or for whatever reason, right? So being armed with this kind of knowledge and this kind of foresight can help you if you find yourself in a situation like this, okay? So connecting with like-minded people, again, always remember, okay, people have been on this planet much longer than 6,000 years old. And human behavior, for some reason, doesn't seem to change. People tend to do the same things over and over and over again. So, again, you're not the first. Remember, you're not the first to go through character assassination and a negative public campaign. So find like-minded people who also experience this kind of personal attack, and they can help you overcome it as well. Okay, networks are important, right? Okay, the fifth thing that I think is very, 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 very good to do is that while you're experiencing a negative public campaign, you want to do as much positive acts as possible. Okay, you want to maintain some sort of positivity, some sort of positive relationships with people in your life so that people can begin to see this is not who this person is. And I want to give you two references. Two people who recently experienced negative public campaign was Hulk Hogan, who had a friend he trusted for many years secretly videotape him having intercourse with another man's wife and then put it online without his knowledge. And he suffered a devastating public campaign, a negative public campaign, and he was on the verge of committing suicide. He finally sued and won his lawsuit. Then there was another sportscaster, blonde woman, I forgot her name, very beautiful woman, who also experienced a negative public campaign. And what was done to her was someone broke into the hotel room, bore a hole in the wall, stuck a pinhole camera in the wall, and was filming her naked and put this up online. And as a result, she suffered an extensive negative campaign. Okay, she also sued and won. Okay, so again, don't think that this is something, I mean, these are extreme cases, okay? But don't think it's something that cannot happen to you. So foresight is always a good thing, right? So one of the things you want to do is you want to do positive acts and positive works, because you want to be able, if it's a negative campaign, the opposite of negative is positive. So if they're committing negative acts towards you, you don't want to commit negative acts to reinforce what they're trying to say about you, which is probably untrue. What you want to do is you want to counter their negative act with positive acts, and that can impact other people's lives. So while they're going out there and they have nothing but negative things to say about you, nothing but negative things to try to do to you, you want to go out there and do the opposite. So you combat the negative acts and the negative diatribe or diarrhea tribe. You want to combat that with positive acts and positive works, right? Okay. The sixth most important thing you want to do is you want to, hi there, thank you so much for coming. I wish I could chat and say hi, but it just doesn't work. Okay, so the sixth most important thing, and this is very crucial, the sixth most important thing you want to do is you want to examine areas of your life. And when you're examining areas of your life in terms of reflection, you have to reflect. You can't just allow these kinds of things to happen and not reflect. Okay, remember I said the first point I made is do not hide, but before you begin to come out, you need a time of reflection as to how did this happen? Who orchestrated this? What did I do wrong? What breaches in my life occurred? Who did I trust that I shouldn't have trusted? Okay, these are all areas of your life that you want to examine. Okay, when you begin to reflect on what occurred and who's involved and the scale of what was involved, right? So you want to identify specifically, you want to be specific when you begin to reflect upon what occurred in your life, right? You want to identify all the areas in your life in which this breach occurred. Okay, so consider it a breach. Okay, it's either a breach in trust, a breach in relationships, a breach in law. Okay, depending on what was done, it could just be a breach in the law, because some things are just downright illegal. Privacy is enshrined in the US Constitution, and absent of the US Constitution, privacy is enshrined under natural law. As a human being, you have the right to privacy. Okay, and you have the right under law, you have the right to have a respected name. Okay, there are laws against tarnishing people's names, and this is something people just do not understand. And in the day and age of cell phone selfies, and all these things, people don't even think that, when they're doing something, they don't even think about the legalities. And sometimes some people in certain positions actually are above the law. And that's a whole other issue. But some people in certain positions, this is something we have to understand. They are above the law. Okay, so you want to examine areas of your life that, in order to identify the who, the what, when, where, and how. Who did it? What happened? What occurred? How it occurred? Where it occurred? And whatever, who, what, why, when, and why it occurred, right? So the four W's and the H, right? Who, what, when, where, why, and how? Maybe 5 W's and 1 H. Okay. So you want to reflect upon these 6 crucial issues, right? And you want to be specific, like who's involved, what did they do, where did this occur, why did it occur, how did it occur, right? And you want to be able to have some sort of matrix when you're examining these things, so it can give you a clear guideline as to where you went wrong. And if you did not go wrong in any way, you still want to be able to know who's involved, why they did what they did, and what steps you can take, right? So reflection is very important. The seventh most important step is defining who you are. If someone begins to put a negative campaign out about you out there, you have to be able to define who you are. What is your image? Okay. Now, no human being has one image. Okay. We are multifaceted beings. Okay. We don't have one image, but we all have a public image. So what is your public image? Okay. And let me say something. As long as they're not breaking the law, no one has the right to do what they're doing to you. Okay. What you do in your personal time, in your personal space, is your business. Even if you're doing something in your personal space, okay, and other people are around, let's say in a private apartment, a private house, it still doesn't give people the right to violate your privacy and putting things about you out there. Okay, it's still illegal. Okay, so what is your public image? Okay, you have to define what your public image is, and if that public image has been tarnished, you have to redefine what that public image is. Okay, so defining what your public image is or redefining what your public image is. So you have to take steps, sit down and say, okay, what is my public persona? What is my public image? And if that has been destroyed, what areas of that can I salvage, and what areas of that can I what areas of that can I salvage? What areas of that I need to redefine? Okay, because we're multifaceted beings. You don't always have to be in one box for the rest of your life. Okay, so you have all right in the universe to redefine who you are. It's your life. It's your image. You have the right to do this. Okay, so number 8, examining people in your life. This is important when there's a negative public image, okay? Examining the people in your life. There will be 2 kinds of people in your life when you endure a negative public image. The first are the people who will be there for you because they know who you are. Then there's going to be the second kind who's going to be there laughing at you and happy. This is just a fact. The people who are angry that you found out, they're angry that you know, they are angry that what they wanted to happen to you did not happen to you. They harbor resentment, they're hateful, they have nothing good to say, they are not happy that what they tried to orchestrate failed or backfired or whatever. Okay, so that's one group of people. Then there's the second group of people who's going to be there for you. So you have to examine who is in your life. You have to take, you have to look at who's in your life, examine who's in your life, and you have to go through this with a fine-tooth comb and a microscope. You really do, because some of them are masters at hiding themselves. Okay, they'll pretend, they'll say hi to you, they'll pretend to be happy to you, but when you turn your back, or you turn around or you turn to the side, you see the real person. When you turn your back, you see the real person come to the surface. And that person who's watching you from behind your back is the real person. And never, ever, ever forget what I'm telling you. The face that watches you when your back is turned is the face of who they are. Okay? Not the face that's watching you to your face. Okay? Because a lot of people are backstabbers. They won't do things to you to your face, okay? They would do it behind your back. So you have to really, really, really have eyes behind your back, so you can see who people are behind your back. And when you see who they are, when your back is turned, that is who the person is. When you're examining people in your life and in your scope of influence, one of the things you have to pay attention to when examining people using this step is 2 Latin words. And I think these 2 Latin words come from Julius Caesar, okay, or the Roman era. I know it came from the Roman era, but I can't remember what emperor said this, right? But cui bono, okay? Italian cui bono or cui bono. Cui bono, who benefits? Who benefits? When you're facing a negative public persona, one of the things you want to know is who is benefiting from you having a negative public persona. And the first place to look is usually close to home. Okay, so it may not be a family, but it could be your friends and your associates. So you want to know cui bono, who benefits, who is benefiting at your demise. Who's benefiting at your loss? Who is benefiting? And when you figure out who's benefiting with you being gone, then this will tell you who the orchestrators are and who your enemies are. Okay? Because in this life, I was always a wonderful, lovely person, and I never, ever, ever lived my life prior to this slander campaign knowing what enemies are. I never knew that a person could have enemies. I never knew it. I never, ever, ever knew it until I experienced a negative public campaign and a slander campaign. And then the people began to boldly, they were so arrogant.